going on, Jerome's? Beautiful Thursday, and it's time for another 5 Good Vikings questions. Thank you very much for everyone who submitted questions on the community tab. Once a week, sometimes twice a week, we'll call out for questions. You guys are the best. First one, Jake Ham. What do you think about this? Trade the first 3 first-round picks, trade 3 first-round picks or whatever's necessary to get whichever quarterback that the Vikings like best. Extend JJ and others and try out the new quarterback for a few years. If he's a bust, then you can trade JJ at that point to get back draft capital, which at that point would be extra first-rounders because the years would have already passed that we traded away to get May or whoever. I kind of like that thinking. I do. I think that's something that the Vikings could have in their back pocket because JJ just turned 25, and if they extend him on a multi-year deal, he will still have tremendous trade value for the next couple of seasons. And it's like what Brandon Beane said about trading up. Paraphrasing here, but the GM of the Bills, because they traded up pretty heavily to go get Josh Allen back in the day, and Beane's logic was, hey, if he doesn't work out, I'm not going to be around to not have those first-round picks anyway. So I mean, I'm surprised that more GMs on the hot seat don't do that. And Kwesi, he's not on the hot seat, but he's probably a little bit warm. So I'm surprised that more GMs don't do that. So I think that trading up and going getting your guy and also having the hedge of after you extend JJ, you could potentially use him as a trade chip to hit the restart again. Plus JJ in a couple years, 2, 3, 4 years older. I mean, you're probably not going to be, oh my God. I'm just thinking of like in a couple, say like 5, 6 years, receivers probably going to be getting $60 million a year. Yeah, that cap is crazy, man. But yeah, I'd be down to clown with that. Vincent Oliver. So, yeah, this is something that's been debated quite a bit. Can you believe the Chiefs only had 1 offensive holding call in 3 Super Bowl appearances? Actually, apparently it's 0. All right, so 3 Super Bowl appearances. So they've won 3 in the last 5 years, but also they got their aces kicked by the Buccaneers. But I don't think it's necessarily a Chiefs thing. Now, people may see it as a Chiefs thing because, I mean, the Chiefs have been rolling, and the Chiefs with Donovan Smith as well as Jawan Taylor, I mean, they've been holding incorporated. Just like, they've been a holding company, right? But, yeah, letting things go in the Super Bowl. Now, also, a lot of people are confused, like, if you twist and rip inside with the defensive end, like, holding is off the table. So it's kind of an interesting thing. But the whole thing about it is that the Super Bowl, like, they let the players play. And I really respect the hell out of the officiating crew to do that. And could you say that regular season games and just normal playoff games should be officiated similarly? Yes. And that's the main reason why the NFL doesn't want holding or defensive pass interference reviewable or defensive holding reviewable, because you could call it on every single play. Right? And I'm more for letting them play and letting them work things out, but it's under the microscope because there's so many bad holding calls during the regular season, and the fact that the Chiefs were habitual line steppers, but then you have a clean sheet in the biggest game. That's where people raise an eyebrow, but it's not just the Chiefs. Next, the Soggy Biscuit. Hey, Andy, love your vids. Thank you. Been watching for a few months now, and you're my favorite Vikings podcaster by far. Thank you. There's a lot of Vikings podcasts out there. Which teams? First off, I think it's fantastic. I think it's awesome that there's so many people putting their voice out there, and what technology has done is really democratized the availability to build up the ability and availability to build up an audience. Because before it's like, well, we need to get onto the airwaves, we need to get onto that FM station, we need to do this. But now, like, any jabroni with some internet and a mic and a camera can just be like, hey, Kwesi sucks. Nah, I'm just kidding. I got faith in Kwesi, man. Where were we? Which teams that ended up at the bottom now we hear of the league this past season do you think will be back with a vengeance in the upcoming season? I think the Jets will have a great comeback season, but I'm sure there's others as well. People forget, like, the last 2 years of Rodgers in Green Bay, he was not very good. And even if he had stayed healthy all year with the Jets, I don't think that I don't have a lot of faith in the Jets. And also, the Jets are a very poorly organized team as it is. Also, you take into account the offensive line is just very poopy. But I think the Chargers will bounce back. I mean, they went, 5-12 last year with Herbert getting hurt. But Jim Harbaugh, who's got it better than us? Nobody. Although secretly, not even secretly, because I've said it a bunch, I'm openly rooting for Jim Harbaugh to fail because it would look better that the Vikings passed up on Harbaugh 2 years ago. Again, it always comes back to us. But I think Herbert's going to be great. I think that Greg Roman got a lot of ish with Baltimore, but I think that the idea of giving Herbert a running game and a competent offensive line, it's great. It's gonna be good. The Bengals will be back. I mean, the Bengals, Jake Browning, that's you never should have cut me. The Bengals cut you too, bro. But Burrow back healthy will be good to go. And also, I mean, T. Higgins, if they keep him on the franchise tag, and also if they just fix that freaking offensive line, or maybe they'll get Brock Bowers. I don't know. Yeah, but Burrow and Chase are still always good. Plus, Enarama, his defense sort of had a down season last year, and they could lose a number of free agents, but sort of is what it is. They should be fine there. I think Cincy bounces back pretty hard. Also, Atlanta. So, I mean, they went 7-10 last year, which, I mean, they're still in the divisional race, but Justin Fields. An outside chance at Kirko, but I still think it's going to be Justin Fields growing and showing with London and Pitts and Bijan, and also Raheem Morris. I mean, that defense is already pretty good, but Raheem Morris is really going to get that defense on track, man. Plus, I think that Atlanta could be really something. I think Atlanta could be really, really good with Justin Fields. Also, obviously, the Vikings rising again. Mitch DeBaker. Now, is Mitch's last name Baker, or is that his employment? Is that his vocation? Does he bake bread? There's nothing better than like good fresh sourdough, not gonna lie. Kirk and Hunter are walking to get a bag in free agency, with quarterback potentially going 1, 2, 3 in the draft, and J.J. McCarthy projected to go higher now, top 10. What are your thoughts on taking a shot on Baker, Wentz, Tygod, Darnold, or Minshew? Well, I would still make something happen. Like if Kirk leaves, make it happen. Trade up and go get your guy in the draft. But in terms of a bridge quarterback, so I would parse out Baker from the rest of that group, because Baker, wherever Baker's signing, he's going to be the starter. And I do think that they do run it back in Tampa with Baker. Maybe they franchise tag him, but I think that they work out a long-term deal. But the other guys would not be coming in as a starter and would not even be guaranteed to be the bridge quarterback. But Carson Wentz, no. Tygod would be fine, especially if the Vikings do get like a Drake May or McCarthy or Jaden Daniels, one of the more mobile quarterbacks. I mean, maybe even Michael Pratt, where stylistically they will cross over, because it always irks me. It's like when your starting quarterback and your backup quarterback are stylistically opposed, where if your starter went down, your backup would run a completely different offense. Nah, I don't like that. It's like when Matt Hasselbeck in Seattle with Mike Holmgren was backed up by Seneca Wallace. Like you can't think of two more diametrically opposed quarterbacks than Matt Hasselbeck and Seneca Wallace. I don't get it, man. Darnold's interesting because he's still relatively young. I mean, he came into the league at 20, and it just didn't work out in New York or Carolina. He was a backup with the Niners, but I think that he still could have some potential. And he's going to be dirt cheap too. So maybe Minshew's interesting because Minshew showed that he can be a competent. I'm not ready to say he's a top 32 quarterback in the league, but he's close. Like he's in the Jacoby Brissett, a.k.a. Jabroni Brisket, sort of area where he's a high-end veteran backup, and if you need to start a few games, he can start you a few games, right? And what we did last year with the Colts coming in for Richardson was good. Although I feel like so Nick Mullins, I understand he's a turnover machine. If he can rein that in, that's a big-time if. He can move the offense. Like, he can chuck the rock. Like, he got the ball to JJ. He had 2 400-yard games, basically. But all right, so I would take just Baker off the plate. But I would take Mullins over Wentz. I would take Mullins over Tygod. Darnold and Mullins, I would say equal. And Minshew, I would give a slight nod to Minshew, although he would be more expensive than the other options. Last one. Josh Williams, I think we should trade I think we should draft Talisa Fuaga, the mammoth right tackle out of the Oregon State University, if he's there at 11, and trade ONeill. What are your thoughts, and what do you think we could get for ONeill? So we've actually bandied this idea about in one of our 17 billion 7-round mock drafts, where the Giants have been looking for a right tackle forever, and I don't think that they should go down the route of drafting another left tackle and trying to flip him to right tackle like they did with Evan Neal. But Brian ONeill, remember, the Giants have an extra second-round pick because of the Leonard Williams trade with Seattle. So I think that's where it would start. That's where the conversation would start. Second-round pick for Brian ONeill and Talisa Fuaga. I mean, stylistically, he's completely different. Like, he's more of a Phil Loadhole type guy, but he's got attitude and 6'5", 6'6", 335 pounds. We'll get official measurements here at the Combine, but he is a dude. He's just an absolute stud, and it would be a new day, a new dawn on the right side. Now, don't get me wrong. Brian ONeill, when he's healthy and dialed in, can still be one of the best right tackles in the game, but he's on a premium contract. He is going to be 28. He was dinged up last year, and he's a year removed from an Achilles. So, I mean, they would consider it. I think they certainly should consider it. But that's it. 5 good Vikings questions. You guys are the best. You know what to do. Skol, production value.